Good morning, Chris. It's good to see you this morning.
Good morning.
So this is Chris Kelly. She is a sitting council member of this Hercules City Council, and she's agreed to share her perspective on the city council and her bid to rerun for the upcoming election in November. So Chris is going to introduce herself and let us know about her positions in Hercules and why we should be comfortable in voting for her, which I am. So Chris, go ahead. Let us know about yourself, and
Yeah,
it's yours.
thank you very much, Glenna. My name is Chris Kelly, and I currently serve on the Hercules City Council. I was elected in 2014 and re-elected in 2018. I've twice served as mayor on the council, and now I'm running for re-election again. Just a little bit about my past. Professionally, I'm a human resources professional, and I've worked in a lot of small businesses for over 25 years. I have just recently retired from my HR day job, so I have lots of time now to devote to being on the city council. I moved to Hercules in 2010. My husband and I bought a home here. And at that time, Hercules was undergoing a lot of fiscal challenges. So I got involved. I attended nearly every city council meeting for 4 years before I ran. I also served on a finance committee, and I assisted the then finance director with some help in the office. So I had a pretty good understanding of the city and its opportunities and its challenges when I was first elected in 2014. As I said, I've been on the council now for nearly 8 years. And the things that I'm most concerned about, what I would say I stand for, is number one, promoting public safety. I think it's really important that we have what is required, one police officer for every 1,000 residents. We have that now, and that's great. And we have a wonderful police force, great community policing, and a fabulous chief. So that's one thing that I'm most concerned about. Number two, maintaining fiscal stability in the city of Hercules. As many of you may know, Hercules is considered a low property tax city, which means we don't get a lot of money back from the county for the property tax that our residents pay. And I'll just give you an example of that. So for example, for my home, I might pay in a year $4,200 for property tax on my property that my husband and I own. The city only gets back about 5% of that. So the city would only receive $230 back from the county. So we are considered a low property tax city. There's reasons for this, historical reasons, but it means that we really have to watch our pennies. And that's one of the things that I do. I pay special attention to the budget. We currently have a general fund budget of just under 17 million, and 48% of that goes for our police force, which is relatively common. So that's the second thing that I always keep my eye on. The third thing is my specialty really on the council is transportation. And so I'm a big advocate now for transportation and for transit, and especially for our regional intermodal transit center called the RITC down by the Hercules Bayfront. As many of you know, we have a developer down there, Ledcor, that's building up to 1,300 units of multifamily housing. And we are now going actively out to get funding to build the train stop, then add ferry and bus. And we have a lot of electeds and other people, important people behind us. And right now the council is making a big push for that. I'm particularly interested in that, in part because I am the chair of Contra Costa Transportation Authority, also called CCTA. I've served on CCTA now for about 3-4 years. And this gives me a unique position to reach out to possible people who could give us some grant funding for the RITC. I also serve on WCTAC, that's the sub-regional committee for transportation, and I'm an alternate on the WestCat bus service. So big advocate for transportation. And the fourth thing that I'm really interested in is, whenever we can, attracting economic development. And I think these days, you know, in Hercules, we're not going to see the big box stores, right? A lot of people buy things online. I know I certainly do, particularly as I can't find them in the stores anymore. But attracting the kind of economic development that might help us to develop our bayfront down by the RITC. So maybe restaurants, ice cream stores, experiential living kinds of places, and also hotels. Right now, the city is getting close, I hope, to having its first hotel go in on Sycamore Crossing. That's the parcel across from Aventine in the center of town. And there may be other opportunities for hotels in the future. The other thing that I would really like to do, and I've talked to the city manager about this, is to find a good anchor tenant, hopefully a restaurant or a food establishment, to go into the building called the Exchange down by the waterfront. That's the big building there that now provides workforce housing. I've talked to the leasing consultants there and to a possible tenant who might really be interested. If we can get an anchor tenant in there, to say a good family restaurant or food establishment, then a lot of the other small tenants will come in and populate that area. And that'll really make it a great center for a lot of people living in the area. And I would hope that with the RITC will really put Hercules on the map in the minds of lots of people, not only our residents, but people in West County and elsewhere. So I think I'll just stop there, Glenna, and please ask me some questions.
Okay, well, so you're seeing, I guess, when you talk about economics, I think that's always something that people are interested in. And it's been a discussion in this past, few months about the utility tax and also the RPTT, the real estate property tax, as means for supplying our economic needs, our budget. So the RPTT has been struck down, which I'm personally grateful for. I don't think that's a good idea ever. And but there was discussion about bringing in the kinds of things, and I think you mentioned some of that with the Exchange, the kinds of businesses that would provide some sales tax and some revenues for the city. So do you have an idea I mean, you're wanting to attract them, get a major anchor person or company in that building, the types of things that would generate enough revenue. You said you're not interested in big box type of establishments, but more maybe smaller. And what can we do as Hercules to attract these kinds of businesses?
Yeah, it's a real challenge. When I first got on the council and even before, people were always talking about, can't we have, all the bed and bath and the Whole Foods and all those other kinds of stores. And, those big box stores, they have specific developments about how many residents they need with certain incomes level within a certain drive time. And at that time, we just didn't meet their qualifications. And, we were in a recession for quite a while. But I can tell you right now, there is interest, I think, in a lot of restaurants. That would be good. There's certainly this interest in hotels, and we get transit occupancy tax from a hotel, and we're really poised to have one here because with Bio-Rad as one of our major businesses in town, their headquarters are here, and they bring in people, and they have to put them for short periods of time, workers, and they have to put those employees up in Pleasant Hill and elsewhere. So if we can get a moderate hotel here, I think that will really be beneficial to them. And there might be other possibilities because, hotels do like to cluster. And the other attractive point about us for a hotel is if someone comes here, they're only 14 miles away from Berkeley. So if they want to go to a football game or something like that, they can stay here in Hercules. It's a safe place. We have good parking, and we have really close access to those other cities, to Berkeley, to Oakland, and eventually to San Francisco.
So San Francisco, I'm sorry. With San Francisco, it occurs to me that possibly then the development of the bayfront with the transportation, would that connect us with a ferry or what other means to San Francisco that would make it reasonable to stay outside of the city, but go into the city reasonably easily?
Absolutely.
For all that the city offers.
And I can tell you, we have some ferry advocates here who, when they came here and they saw what Hercules has, they said, oh my gosh, this is a great place for a ferry. Also, because we would like to have ferry service, maybe small boat for service at first. The director of WITA, Seamus Murphy, was talking about that. And also Supervisor Federal Glover, who's our county supervisor. He's very big on the Northern Waterfront Initiative and really would like to connect the cities of Pittsburgh, Antioch, Martinez, and Hercules with ferry service. And certainly Hercules would be a great point to go from here, not only to those cities, but over to Richmond and then into San Francisco. You know, with the freeways getting jammed up all the time and people's concerns about BART, the safety aspect, folks really like the idea of riding on the ferry. And the Richmond ferry, which our council has supported, has proved to be very, very popular. Not only with, you know, office workers like me, but also with essential service workers who are now using the ferry. So I think that we could benefit from that. Great excitement and interest in that.
Okay, interesting. Okay, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You were going to say something else.
Yeah, one other thing I would like to mention is some of you may have noticed that Mr. Art Lorenzini opened up a storage place called Store Local across from Valley Bible Church. And he wanted to bring a business here. So he talked to our former city manager who said, hey, Art, you know, you want to bring a business here, but how's this going to help me, you know, get some sales tax here? And so Art said, you know, we will pay you transit occupancy tax, or the equivalent of it, what a hotel would pay, once we reach about 95% occupancy. And so that was a deal that he worked out with the city of Hercules. And so when they reach, you know, close to full occupancy, they will be giving us more than the regular amount of sales tax.
Wonderful.
And I thought that was great. And by the way, you know, the Store Local is, I did take a tour of it, and it's a very modern facility. There's a lot of lighting there, and people, particularly women, if they have businesses or want to store things, they should feel very safe to go there and store some things.
It's a beautiful facility. That's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, so where would you, or do you envision putting a hotel in Hercules? What property do we have that would allow us to do that?
Yeah, if I could wave a magic wand, I would put a maybe a boutique hotel down by the waterfront near what we call the Bowl. Now that's that kind of area. It is slated for some residential, but we've always thought it'd be great to also have a boutique hotel there with the view of the bay. And that's just on the other side of those homes and businesses on Railroad Avenue. So it's like right behind Railroad and Bayfront Boulevard. You could put a fabulous boutique hotel there and it would be very popular. Or
so would that be like right on the bay, but this side, or, you know, inland from the train tracks?
Yeah, it would have to be inland from the train tracks.
Right, but just right along the train track right there. There used to be a really old home there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And the other possibility is to use maybe the administration building, which is that big old brick building.
Mm-hmm.
Ledcor owns that property, what we call the Bowl, or parcels A, B, C, D. And they have some ideas about putting residential there. But we in Hercules have always thought, well, gosh, couldn't we just also kind of squeeze in a hotel, because it would be fabulous. And wouldn't it be great if Ledcor could redo the administration building and the clubhouse and bring that back and maybe use the clubhouse for venues, you know, possibly weddings or, you know, other kinds of, things like that. You know, I'm part of the Hercules Historical Society. And I've talked with Jay Tucker and Lynn Fissel, two former mayors, about the idea of using it again. And so, you know, there's all kinds of possibilities here. The wonderful thing about Hercules is we are a beautiful city. You know, we have no telephone poles. We were largely developed in the 1970s, even though we were incorporated as a company town back in 1900. And people moved here starting in the 70s and 80s, you know, for a variety of reasons. And we're, as I always say, we're not too rich, we're not too poor. We're middle income, we are multi-ethnic, you know, which I think is just really, really fabulous. And most of us, you know, work in jobs outside the city, or maybe work from home now. We work hard and we just want to raise our families in a nice place. And we have lots of trails and parks and so forth. I think it can only get better. And I have to tell you, when I bring other elected officials or even my family members here and show them Hercules, they say, wow, what is this? You know, it is amazing. And one thing I would add, our former planning commissioner, Richard Mitchell, who also happened to be the planning director of Richmond years ago. Richard is retired now. and he lives up in the hills. He's been here like 30 years. And he says, you know, the wonderful thing about Hercules is that you have options for the kinds of homes that you want. You can buy, you know, a big 3 to 4 bedroom home, you know, with a 2 to 3 car garage and fit your whole family in. You can come down to the waterfront area and you can get a smaller home or a townhome or something with a maybe already existing ADU. And now down by the waterfront, there are rental options in both the Exchange and in the Grand. Those are the buildings that Ledcor's building. So there's lots of, you know, different kinds of housing types for us in our city.
And I think it's wonderful. I just recently did a Flat Stanley thing, you know, if that's what that is for kindergarten children or grade school children. They send Flat Stanley out and want to know about your place and where you live and what you do. So I did a little Flat Stanley excerpt for him for Hercules, and I did more reading on it than I have, and it really is quite impressive, our history. But to have preserved the historical homes, I think is a wonderful thing to go back to that. It's a very nice little area. And you're talking about the clubhouse and that the old brick building, the administration building. Be wonderful to add those in some way to the historic part of Hercules where we maintain our history and yet use it for something current and useful. And those positions are wonderful. That'd be a wonderful place for a hotel. I mean,
yeah. So, you know, we in the city, and I think residents can talk with Ledcor, with Marnie Lynn Fox, who's the lead on that, and, you know, give them our ideas about, you know, what we would like to see. Hercules it's certainly, it's evolving.
well, for a small space, which it relatively is, it is diverse and has a lot to offer. I think one of the things, as I've heard other residents suggest, and I guess I've sort of asked this already, is, you know, the kinds of things that would bring revenues in. And if we had, now, what do you mean by, I know what a boutique hotel is, but would it be large enough and practical enough to be revenue producing?
Revenue generating?
Yeah,
Well, it would
yeah.
certainly bring more than regular sales tax does. Any hotel does that. You pay what's called TOT, transit occupancy tax, on top of your regular room rate, and it's, you know, like around 10% or something like that. I'd have to get the exact numbers. So those are certainly possibilities.
Would there be other hotels considered as well, or just one at
you
that
know,
area? You said
you know,
something they like to cluster, and so
yeah, in within like the same cities, you know.
Right.
So, I mean, those are possibilities. I know our new community development director, Tim Rood, and our city manager, Dante Hall, are open to all kinds of ideas and things. So those are certainly possibilities. On the revenue, I do want to mention, Glenna, the upcoming measure that's going to be on the November ballot for renewing the utility users tax, renewing the 8% UUT. Now, this is not a tax increase, but it would just be a renewal. And I think certainly all of the council and the staff and so many of us who live here understand the importance of that. The UUT, which is charged to, you know, my phone bill, my Comcast bill, and so forth, it's 8% of the bill. You'll see it listed there. And it brings in 21% of the revenue to the general fund, about 3.6 million a year. Out of a nearly $17 million budget, that revenue is crucial. And the city manager needs to know, you know, are we going to be able to continue this, because he needs to budget, you know, and Dante is really looking not just to the next, you know, 1 or 2 years, but he and the finance director, Edwin Gatto, are looking to like the next 5 years. And then, you know, considering the next 10 years, you know, where are we going to be at? So renewal of the UUT is really, really important.
So that measure will increase, or it will not increase it, but renew it for 10 more years, or till the year?
It will just renew it until the voters decide to take it away.
Discontinue. Okay.
Yeah.
So
And, you know,
indefinitely.
Panola
But it
did
will
the
not
same
raise
thing.
the amount.
No,
right?
it will not.
Right.
It will not. But it really is essential, because if we don't have that, then we're going to have to think about, you know, cutting parks and rec, or having fewer police officers, and we don't want to do that. So, like I said, we are a low property tax city, and so we have to look at other areas for revenue. The other thing that, you know,
I'll
assuming that
just
I'm real.
say that has been in place since 2014 and has been renewed multiple times, right?
Yes,
And so we hopefully are all familiar with it. Pretty
yeah,
much, but good. Okay.
pretty much.
Mhm.
The other thing is, assuming that I am reelected, I think one of the things I learned this last year is we really need to have a conversation with the residents in Hercules about our financial future going forward. So, and one of our residents, whom I know, Phil Simmons, he came to the council and he said, quite honestly, hey, you know, you folks got some consultants in here to find out about a viability of the UUT or this RPTT, but you haven't had a conversation with the community yet. And Phil's absolutely right. I think we need to have a series of town halls, maybe like on Saturday mornings. It could stretch out over many months or so just to talk about the economic future of Hercules and what needs we may have in the future. And if there would be needs for other possible measures, different kinds of measures in the future. I'm not going to, suggest what those would be. But again, you have to think about it, we assume, the finance director assumes a 3% cost of living increase every year. And then some things do go up. So we do have to think about the future and what people want. Now, if we just want kind of a more like a bare bones city, that can be done. At this point, I personally would not want to reduce any of the services like, parks and recreation services that we have. And we do give some money to the library. The library is a wonderful resource in my book. But we don't want to be, yeah, but we don't want to be extravagant either. And I'm always watching our pennies, and I just want to give a shout out to the Bayfront Chamber of Commerce and the Rotary and all of the citizens who volunteer at all of our different events. They really, really make it wonderful here and really, really help the city.
Well, that's wonderful. And so I would just add a little plug, and this is not necessarily detailed now, but for town halls when those are held, even a Zoom option is a good thing if people can't come, but to have opportunity to be in on the discussion and just hear what's happening and offer suggestions. I know, and I don't know that if this is a time or place to address this, but I know that in the past, I've heard some people who have tried to establish businesses in Hercules have a difficult time. It's a much longer and more involved process than it is evidently like in next door Pinole. And I don't know if that is something that we seem to have a full fare right now at the Sycamore Plaza. But would there be other places? You mentioned the Exchange, and there are some other businesses there, but would be for retail or any other kinds of things that could bring in cash or revenues without the city being taxed again and some of their residents, to bring it in from outside sources and make it a more viable option.
So there's the Sycamore, there's the infamous Sycamore Crossing parcel, which is, at San Pablo and Sycamore, across from Aventine. In the middle of that parcel is where the hotel, it's a Hampton Inn, about 100-unit Hampton Inn to go there. And then sort of closer to where the Safeway is, there's kind of a triangular parcel that the developer wanted to bring in retail. And I think we should, then the pandemic hit and everything just went crazy. But, maybe having some restaurants there, maybe a pharmacy, because it's so close to the Safeway and to the gas stations. It's an area where people walk around. There are possibilities there. So that's another possible place to have some kind of retail.
Well, we have such great positioning off of 80. So people just going by, I mean, they can see the sign for Safeway, stop in for whatever they need, gas or etc.
Yeah.
But if there are other options there too, it won't even just be the city of Hercules or residents of Hercules funding them. It's certainly for our use and convenience too, but they may bring in some outside revenue that is coming in through traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Safeway has done that, particularly with its cheaper, gasoline. So there are possibilities, like I said, any retailer who comes in, they want to see that somebody else is there first, and they want to know that their development is going to work out. And they have certain specifications that they require. But, you know, I mean, certainly food establishments, are really popular. We don't, I mean, we have a couple of restaurants, you know, kind of like sit down restaurants in town. Well, I think we could use more. And I'm hoping we could get that. I hope we could eventually get what I tell my husband is a really nice date night restaurant, maybe down by the bayfront, you know.
Well, that would be a lovely thing, certainly. And there are some Lila by the Bay. Is it there? Something like
Layla
that?
by the Bay is
Yeah.
there.
Mhm.
Powder Keg is there. Both are pretty
Mhm.
well established, you know. But it'd be great if we could have some others too.
That's a beautiful, beautiful view and location. We like to just go there and sit, look at the bay and
Yeah.
enjoy the scenery. Well, so you mentioned some of the citizens that help with different kinds of events. Is there something that you see that citizens of Hercules could do that would be useful or helpful in promoting or assisting in the progress of our city, that in general you think we might, be made more aware of from your perspective?
Well, certainly, you know, if you're volunteering in any of our organizations, you know, is certainly important. Coming to city council meetings and just giving us ideas. And also then, you know, social media, you know, right now, we have something called Hercules Connect. And we also have a, an organization helping us with communications on things like Nextdoor and Facebook, just promoting the different kinds of activities. Well, send those links around to your friends and neighbors. I mean, for example, two things are coming up pretty soon. One will be another movie night on Friday, September 16th in Refugio Park. You know, promote that. And I will talk and see if, you know, there might be like some food trucks and other things around there that could be helpful. And then the other thing is on the Sunday, October 2nd, there's going to be the Bayfront Run down by the waterfront. And then kind of a festival after that with booths and things. So, you know, promote those kinds of events that will bring people in.
Make
Hercules
people
is
aware
kind
of
of a
them.
hidden gem, you know, so the
Yeah,
more folks we can get to come here, the better it can be.
right. A little jewel, actually, we feel it is. We
Yeah,
have many ideal aspects of this community. So we've been here a long time, and longer than I care to recognize. It's gone quickly and it's been a long time, but excuse me, but wonderful. It's a wonderful place. Well, it's been a delight to hear you talk to you about what you've done and what you're doing, what your visions for the future are. We appreciate your expertise, the time you've spent, and the time you're yet willing to spend as a council person in Hercules, and find that extremely valuable. You seem to be open to talking to constituents. Is there a time or place or way? Can people just email you? I think that's found on the city website.
yeah, people can find my my email on the city website, CKELLEY at ci.hercules.ca .us. You can also, you know, text me 510-684-4919. That's my mobile number. It's on my city business card. Yeah, just get in touch with me. I have a lot more time now to meet and to, you know, to talk with people, and, you know, would like to. I will say this, you know, I think on the city council, I consider myself sort of a reasonable, moderate voice. I don't lean one way or the other. And, you know, the city government is nonpartisan, the council is nonpartisan. I look at every issue on its own merits. And I don't necessarily vote with, you know, this council member or that council member all the time on every issues. I just consider it one by one. I never take anything personally. And I hope my other council members don't. And I'm always open to hearing other points of view, you know? Hey, folks, if you don't agree with me, then, you know, come and talk with me or come to council and I will listen to you, you know, and we can have a dialogue.
And see if
So,
there's merit in whatever is being discussed. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
so
wonderful.
yeah, that's another reason, you know, I'm running because I think I can provide a reasonable voice on the council. And I guess the last thing I would say, and I do say this sometimes, is I am perhaps the one council member who doesn't bring up all kinds of new items to discuss at council meetings. And the reason is I know how staff is really short-staffed. Everybody in City Hall is working like crazy. And, back in 2011, we had to lay off 40% of our staff. We still have not gotten that back. We probably never will, and probably don't need that many people, but maybe adding a few people here and there in order to retain our staff and our department heads in some areas, might be something we have to do in the future. So I'm always just very, very conscious of how much they have to do. And I try to establish a really good relationship with all the department heads and with the police chief and with the city manager, and really work with them to make Hercules a wonderful, a great, and even a better place to live.
Well, that's wonderful. That's a great position, in my opinion, and one that works well. You served us well, and we look forward and hopefully for another term for you, and appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for sharing your perspective with us, and we'll share this with other members of other Herculeans and ask them to do the same. So thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
Okay.
you, Glenna. Thank you for
bet.
having me.
Thank you.